It would be nice to have a visual indication of what the current building block is. The method we'll use here will allow the player to appear as if they have a block in their hand. Another nice feature would be to switch between third-person view and first-person view, and the ability to zoom the camera in and out. Our objectives for this module are to implement a visual indication of what the current block is. We'll also support switching between third-person and first-person view, and implement a way to zoom the camera in and out. Start off by opening the BP Block Player. Go to the Viewport tab, and then select the mesh from the list of components. Click the Add Component button, and search for Child Actor. Name the child actor Preview Block. The preview block will be attached to a socket that was created and added to the skeletal mesh. In the Details panel, find the parent socket, click the search icon next to it, and select Block Socket. I'm going to give you a specific set of values for the transform for the location, rotation, and scale. You can modify these later. I'd suggest that you start with these and see how it looks first. For the location, X, Y, and Z, we'll use -7, 6, and 0. For the rotation, for the X, 1, 10, and for the Y, -80, and for the Z, -150. Click the lock icon in the scale setting, and then in the X edit box, type in 0.4. Press Enter. Notice with the lock icon selected, all three of the axes are locked and they'll all scale to 0.4. Set the child actor class by going to the child actor class setting in the details, clicking the drop down, and searching for BP_base block. Click Compile and Save, and observe that you now have a base block attached to the player, location where the socket is, which is right on the player's hand. Go to the event graph. We're now going to add a function to set the current build block and change the preview block. To do that, click the Add Function button and name the function setPreviewBlock. The setPreviewBlock will use the components and variables that are already set up, so we won't need any parameters. Drag out the preview block and drag out the current block class and get it. From the preview block, drag off of that and type in setChildActorClass. Find the setActorChild class node. Look that up. Use the current block as the class that we're setting that to. Drag out the preview block again, and from that, drag off the child actor. Get child actor. Cast that to a BP base block and hook that up. We need to take the collision from the BP base block and set it to no collision, otherwise the preview block will interfere with the player. And the preview block really shouldn't have a collision because it doesn't respond to anything. It's just being attached visually so that we can, or attached to the player so that we can visually see what the block is. So drag off of the as BP base block and type in box collision to get the box collision. From there, drag off and type set collision enabled. And we want to use the setting no collision. Go back to the event graph and find the spot where we set the current block. And that is right here. And I think it'd be a good idea to put a comment around that while we're here. So I'm going to highlight all of that, tap C, set current block. So at the spot after where the current block is set, drag out a set preview block function call and hook that up. We'll also want to put the set preview block function call in the begin play event as well. So I'll drag one out here, and after we set up the all blocks array and get the last index, I'll just hook that up. And the reason we're doing that is so that that collision gets taken off the preview block. Compile and save, and go back to the map and check it out. So now we have a block attached to us, and when we move the mouse wheel to change the block, we see the current block is changing, the preview block, and it is in fact the block that we are using when we place a block down. Another nice feature to have would be the ability to switch back and forth between the third-person view and the first-person view. To add that, we'll need to add an action mapping, so we'll open up the project settings, click on the edit menu and project settings, and then go to the input settings and add a new action mapping. Name the new action mapping toggle FPV underscore TPV for first person view, third person view, and I'll use the keyboard F key for that. And close out of the project settings. Find an open area to write some code, and then right click and search for that new action mapping that we just added. Toggle FPV, there we go, TPV. All right, so since this is a toggle, we'll make use of the flip-flop node. Just drag off the pressed and type in flip-flop. And for the A wire, we'll toggle from third person, which is the default view, to the first person view. So we're going to need the mesh, and what we'll do is we'll hide the mesh, show the mesh when it's time to go back to third person. There's other settings we'll have to change, but that'll be the first step. So drag off of the mesh and type in set hidden in game and hook that up to the A pin, and we want the mesh to be hidden. And I'm going to organize this specific manner here because these nodes are going to be the same for the B option. We're just going to have the settings be a little bit different. So after we hide the mesh, we have to adjust where the crosshair is. So I'll get the crosshair and drag off of that and type in crosshair Y location, set crosshair Y location. And in third person view, it's a quarter of the way down the screen. For first person view, it would be good if it were directly in the center of the screen. So we'll set the Y location to 0.5. We'll adjust the length of the spring arm. So drag off the spring arm and type in target arm length. And we want to set the target arm length. We'll set that to 0 for first person view. And I'm going to keep moving this over because there's quite a bit of code that we have to add here actually. So get yourself a nice wide open space to do this. All right, so the next thing we need to do is tell it to use the controller rotation yaw. Set use controller rotation yaw, and we want that to be true so that first person view we just use the rotation yaw and directly turn. We're not turning a character. Now these next bits of code are a little bit strange, and what they have to do with is the way the animations work when the skeletal mesh is hidden. When we hide the skeletal mesh, the animations might play for a few frames, and it will leave our preview block in a strange location until we start playing the animation again. This also affects the animation montage when we place a block. So what we're going to do is we're going to detach the preview block from the mesh's socket when we're in first person view, and we'll reattach it when we go back to third person view. There's another way to do this, which is, I'll show you this just so you can try it if you like, and you won't have to write the pieces of code that follow. In the mesh component, you can go down to the optimization section, and where it says visibility based tick option, always tick pose, this will work only when rendered, but it will work partially when you hide the mesh, and then it will stop working. You could change that to always tick pose and refresh bones, and then it will always do the animation even when the mesh is hidden. The problem is in first person view that the preview mesh is going to be flying around all over the place because it's attached to the hand and it's going to be waving around in front of you. You can try it if you like. I found that I didn't like it, and I went with this code that we're about to write here. So let's continue with that. Let's drag out the preview block, and we'll also need the mesh. And the first thing I want to do is I want to get the relative transform of the preview block so that I could set it back to that relative transform when we show the mesh again. So I'm going to drag off of that and type get relative transform, and I'm going to save that to a variable so that we can use it when we toggle back. So I'm going to right click and promote to variable, and I'll name that the previous preview block transform. And let's hook that up. Now that we have the previous preview block transform, we can attach a component to a component, which is really just going to detach from the socket. You'll see that in a second. So to drag off of the preview block, attach component to component is what we're looking for. And again, we're going to have to move this code. There we go. That should be the last time for that, hopefully. And hook that up here. And the preview block is going to be attached to the mesh, which it already is, but we're clearing out the socket name this time. And we want to keep the location rule of the preview block to the world location. So keep world, and scale, keep world as well. So this will now work as far as toggling to first person view. Let's test it out. Let's compile, save, go back to the map, click play. And you can see I could tap the F key and switch to first person view. Still have the preview block attached. It still changes, but it doesn't animate when we move it around, and it doesn't do the animation montage because it's not attached to the socket anymore. And we can tap the F key all we want. It won't toggle back because we haven't written the code for the B side of this flip-flop. So for the B side of the flip-flop, we're going to duplicate the set hidden in game. So select it, press Ctrl W. Make sure you hook up the mesh as the target and hook up the B pin to that. And for the new hidden value, we want it to be false. We don't want it hidden in game anymore. We'll duplicate the set Y location for the crosshair. So select it, Ctrl W, and hook that up. Make sure you hook up the crosshair target and set the location back to 0.25. The spring arm, select the set target arm length, duplicate that, hook up the target, hook up the execution pin, and change that to 300, which was the original length of the target spring arm. And for use controller rotation yaw, we want to set that to false. Now we just need to reattach the preview block to the mesh. So I'm going to select the attach component to component, duplicate it with Ctrl W, and hook up the execution pin. We want to attach the preview block to the mesh. The socket name is called block socket, spelled as you see here. And for the location, it doesn't really matter what you put here because we're going to reset that in just a second. So just leave that to keep world. And what we'll do is we'll set the relative transform of the preview block so it'll be snapped back to where we originally had it. So I'm going to drag off of the preview block, bring that over here, set relative transform, Hook that up, and then get the previous preview block relative transform, drag that out, and that up like so. Let's compile, save, and go back and test this. Play, press F to change to first person view. Press F again to toggle back to third person and confirm that the preview block is in fact attached in the right location. Let's go back to the BP block player and comment this big chunk of code that we just wrote. So I'll select all of it, press C. For the comment, toggle FPV and third person view. So the next feature I think would be really useful is the ability to zoom in and out. And we'll use a couple of inputs for that as well. So click on Edit and go to Project Settings and Input again. And we'll use some action mappings for this as well. So click plus on the action mappings, and we're going to need 2 of them. So just add that second one. So the first one we'll add is zoom in, and we'll set that to the mouse wheel being rolled up. So find mouse and mouse wheel up. Now we've already got a mouse wheel up and down to select the next block. So let's add a control key modifier for that. So it'll be control mouse wheel up to zoom in, and we'll add the control key modifier for the zoom out as well. So that'll be control key mouse wheel down to zoom out. And let's add that right now. Zoom out and mouse wheel down. Mouse wheel down. There we go. And close out of the project settings. Now we're going to write a support function for the zooming in and out. So go to find the add function button, select it, and name this get min spring arm length. And the reason we're writing this is we want the spring arm to only get so short when we're in third person view. If we let it get down to 0, it'll be squashed up in the player and it won't look good. So we'll just get to figure out if we're in first person or third person view, we'll just check if the mesh is visible or not. Drag the mesh out and drag off of it and type in is visible. And we'll need a branch, hold down the B key, and that will be the condition. So if the mesh is visible, we're in third person view. We'll make 2 return nodes. So select the get min spring arm length and add an output. And that is going to be the min length. And that will be a float. So if the mesh is visible, we'll return 100. And just duplicate that node. Oh, I didn't take my value there. 100, enter. Go. And if it's not visible, we're in first person mode, we'll let the spring arm get all the way down to 0. Now, one other change we're going to make here is we won't make it so that you actually have to call the function. You will call the function, but you won't have to execute the function. We'll make the function pure so we can just retrieve the value from it. And you'll see the difference in just a second. And this is pretty handy if you're just retrieving a value. So go back to the event graph and let's start writing the code to zoom in and zoom out. So we're going to need our 2 input actions. We'll get the zoom in. And since these are closely related, we'll get the zoom out. Put that right below it. In fact, we're going to kind of write both of these at the same time. So we'll get the spring arm. And from that, we'll get the target arm length. And when the player zooms in, we'll reduce the length by 20. So drag off of that, minus float minus float, and reduce it by 20. And when we zoom out, we'll increase the length by 20. So again, off of the target arm length, type in plus float, and set that to 20. Now we'll use the get min spring arm length function that we just wrote, that right in the middle of them. And notice again, now this is a pure function so that we don't have to actually run the execution wire through it. It'll just run whenever we need the value of it. And you can see the difference here. I'll toggle the pure function. That's what it looks like if it's not pure. So since it's not modifying anything and it's just getting a value, it's handy to be able to do that. Then what we'll do is we'll clamp this float value. So we'll drag off of that, search for clamp, and clamp float. And the value is going to be between the minimum spring arm length and 1500. That'll be the maximum value that will allow the zoom out to go. You can set that to more if you like, but I think when you try it, you'll find that 1500 is a good value. Let's duplicate this, and we'll hook up the minimum again, and we'll hook up the plus 20 to that. And again, we'll clamp that at 1500. So the minimum values, whatever that returns, and 1500. And finally, we'll get the spring arm again, and we will set the target arm length. Target length, set the target arm length to the new value returned from that clamp node. And we'll duplicate that. Make sure you hook up the target, the value from the clamp, and when we zoom out, we'll hook that up. Neaten that up a little bit and put a comment around it. Zoom camera in and out. Let's test it out. I declared that it worked when I put the comment around it, but I didn't really test it. Let's try it out. So we'll come back in the editor, press play, and I'll hold down the control key and roll the mouse wheel back towards me, and I'm zooming out. Bring the mouse wheel in, and you can see you can get fairly close. That's 100 units away. That's probably close enough. You can edit it if you like or change it. And you'll see that the adding block functionality still works. And when we toggle first person view, we can again zoom out and zoom in as well. So that works. All right, so we successfully added the zoom camera in and out. In this module, we implemented a preview block as a visual indicator of what the current build block is. We added the ability to toggle between third-person view and first-person view, and also added the ability to zoom the camera in and out.